tell us who you are.
Ooh!
I'll
tell you why it's always an honor to stand up. It's all about glorifying God. And I work for Jesus. And I was going to shoot myself in 2008. I was a coke addict and a full-blown alcoholic. And I put my hands up and I said, I'm all yours, Jesus. And I had a sister who was dying of cancer. So she was the one that saved my life. She got me to go. She said, you have to do 4 years. I'd already lost my wife. I didn't have kids. We battled years to have kids, spent a lot of money. I had the house, I had the cars, I had everything, and I lost it all. And I've been doing this now for 15 years. I've been part of 8 centers, and God just knows me, every hair on me. He knows exactly, as hard as it is, He just keeps giving me joy. So I have over 600 kids now. And I studied mechanical engineering, but I've studied more. I just handed my thesis in last year, and it was 40% spiritual. I wanted it to be 60%, but it was 40% spiritual and 60% theory. And I presented it to the University in Victoria, and I had to sit in front of a panel. And they wanted to give me this whole certificate. I said, I don't want it. I've already got it, Jesus. I said to them, so I've done business counsel, now I do business counseling, marriage counseling. Just I arrived like 2 days ago, we arrived on Wednesday, and I've already been with a group of people yesterday, and it's just so amazing that there's so many people that are doing so much good work. And if we just stay in that, you know, there's a lot of bad happening, but there's also so much good. And I think we're in this time that Jesus is really, really working. He really is working. And I believe we have to learn spiritual warfare. And I believe the devil at the moment is also working because he knows Jesus is doing mighty things. So I'm in the Karoo, and he brought me down here 3 times. And believe me, I got crucified at the Karoo. But it's been amazing. And now we're starting. I'm trying to move away from the rehab concept. You know, electric fences, like a prison. You know. I want the people to know that Jesus is there. You just have to come in, quiet in yourself.
If you're here for a whole week till next Friday, then you can take it out.
I can talk about Jesus for a thing. He's taking me on.
Next Friday. I was going to say, we'll make a plan. Next time you come down. Next year, welcome.
So you're already invited.
Maar jy is nog sien of jy ander nuwe gesigte
Patrick, ken ons nou?
Ja, Patrick ken ons nou. Ja. Okay.
Ons
baie welkom.
Ons moet net gou ons het nog ek het vergeet my gebed.
Ons sal as ons afsluit, jy gaan ons afsluit.
Okay, dan kan ons dit doen.
Dan gaan ons dit doen. Hans baie dankie. En ek wil net vir julle iets vinnig op net sê. Ek en Hans kom al 'n lang pad saam sonder wetende so Hans het 'n noue verhouding met 'n koningsmaatskappy Jupiter in Engeland wat rugby speel sponsor by die Baastok rugbyman en ek sê vir Hans en asseblief onthou dit. Kyk ek het miskien al gedeel en hy was 'n full-blown alcoholic. Hy hou nie van die woord maar hy gesê vir die Engels vir die lied.
Is dit Mark?
Ja,
nie ek nie.
Jy kyk Mark gesê. Hy sê nou op die nuus toe gekom het vir die drinkspan. En hy 4 jaar die verlede jaar tot tyd nog nie weer druppel drank nie. Dis die eerste stap wat ek baie meer as ek nog 'n baie groot serie van jare en dan hier ou klein baie en dit lees so werk met my so baie asseblief. So Hans ken hom so dis nog ongelooflik hoe dit werk met Hans vanoggend nou hier is net. So welkom Hans.
Dankie.
Was hier tyd.
Ek is net gekom met hy bolstof vir swaai in
Dit hang af wie gaan swaai. So die golfstok is net as 'n instrument net daai kom. It comes into play just now, don't worry. It's a forearm. Stefan, thanks for inviting me. Must introduce myself, where I come from.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I thought Rian might do it.
Oh, okay.
But so let me give a quick
a quick intro for those of you that don't know Hans. So from a work perspective, you will know that Hans was Director of Rugby Development at KZN.
They wouldn't have known that.
At the Rugby Union. No, that's probably before that. But he was the Managing Director of the Sharks Academy. Now, you will know some of the players that came through there. Guys like Beast and Lambie and Frank Steyn, Jacob Peterson. So that you can see in when you look at Hans's bio, that's the kind of thing that he's passionate about. His next role was manager academies at South Africa Rugby Union. So that's kind of in the broader context. And at the moment, you're working with Marties and Stellenbosch, expanding their role fundraising capacity. But he's also a player. So you look at his list and you see from school days, schools rugby, cricket, and then Marty's, like 97 matches for Marty's first team, SA University Rugby, Western Province 4 Currie Cup finals, Sharks Rugby, Sharks Sevens team, and even Germany International Rugby. You must tell us about that.
I often do that when someone will say, but this Oak played for Province, but he's also an international. I don't immediately say it was for Germany.
Okay.
I like the one that kijk is Springbok for the
And he loves golf. So, Hans, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Stefan. I said to him earlier, I'll never forget his name, because he came to one of our breakfasts about 5 years ago, and you don't get often, if a guy's called Rian, or Stefan, or I remember his name, I remember his email and stuff like that. So I'll speak a combination of English and Afrikaans, just for everyone's sake. Seker ons kan allemaal Engels verstaan deesdae ook. En ek werk by Stellenbosch waar die taal 'n issue is. Ek sê Xhosa praat intussen nie, maar Engels en Afrikaans is goed. So what I wanted to do when you asked me to come and speak, I thought it's not my purpose to come and give you a talk about something or to preach at you about something specific, but rather just to share a little bit of my journey with Jesus over the last 55 years. And hopefully I won't be too long for your sake. And then if there are one or two questions or things that we want to chat about or ask, we can open up for that. So hopefully we can actually enjoy fellowship together. So I'm 55 at the moment, turning 56 this year. So there are a couple of us that are similar ages. There might be one or two that are older. Billy is miskien 'n jaar of 2 ouer as ek. Anton is 'n jaar of 2 ouer as ek. So some are older, some are younger, but quite a few of us will come from the same era, as in the 70s, 80s, 90s. I grew up in a German household. So my dad was a forester, he was a bosbouer geweest. Eers in Pietermaritzburg, net buitekant Pietermaritzburg, en toe Oos-Transvaal en dan Mariefskop. And then we moved back to George when I was 6. And we spoke German at home. My mom is a German, my dad is born in South Africa Germans, but went to German school, Lutheran church, solid Lutherans, groot geword. En ons het net Duits gepraat by die huis. Ons het nie Afrikaans en Engels gepraat met mekaar. So uit in die klas skool gegaan met George and this upbringing, or maybe my first 19, 20 years were sort of defined around a pretty solid family. So we 3 boys. I'm the middle one, the most balanced of the 3. and our family base was for us all those years was very important. Also because we didn't grow up in the city, in the metropole, big city of George, which we didn't grow up there. We grew up just outside of George at Sarsveld Bosbou College. And so around us was bush, and we grew up as a family, going to church, Lutheran German church, being exposed to nature every single day of our life, and then playing sport. And because we were up on this forestry college at Sarsfield, there were rugby fields, cricket fields, hockey fields, tennis courts. There was space. And so I grew up like that with these things defining me. And I think the aspect of my life that was the most passionate for me over all those years was definitely sport. Anything to do with the ball, not so much water, fully unexpectedly. And yeah, even when I tried to surf, I couldn't surf. So then, but anything to do with the ball, I used to love playing it. But I always, in my mind, we would think the Christian box. Yeah, yes. Race, yes. Taal, actually German, but at school Afrikaans and dan so my Engels geleer. Christian, yes. Lutheran, yes. Believe in Jesus, yes. So was our definition of our Christian faith. So not so much a relationship with God, but more a solid knowledge of our Christian faith. And actually, my dad took us through a catechisatie. So we were confirmed at 13, 14, and everything that we learned, my dad used to teach us. It was quite a slog for him to teach my older brother, me, and then my younger brother through this catechismusboek, Deutsches Catechismusboek. And ek het daar goed geleer. Ek is doctor, when you get confirmed, this was a rap. That day standing under the congregation, and I thought I'm a Christian, and that's great. But it changed for me a bit when I went to varsity. I went to Stellenbosch in 1984, and at the beginning of 1985, I was invited to a SCAS camp, Sports for Christ Action, Stellenbosch in those days. And Cassie Carsons and him started SCAS in those days. And the first camp, was jy begin betrokke toe?
Ja, ek was op die eerste sportjeerspaar. Saam Cassie.
Yes.
Gaan jy aan?
With Zoom. Die eerste SCAS-kamp, by Picardy Hotel in Parel, in die middel van die Parel. En Cassie het ons genooi, en I found my two buddies, Johan Blauw and Buxton Roy, and we've been playing rugby together, and Blauw was my roommate from past. Listen, are you guys going to this weekend? It's for free, it's in a hotel, it's a weekend before varsity starts. And we all said, ons het niks op te verloor, kom ons net lekker mense wees, meisies behoort of mooi te wees, kom ons gaan na die naweek. En die Here het eintlik 'n afspraak gehad met my daai naweek. I didn't know that. I mean, I thought that my faith was all in place, and my life was fine. I was doing okay. And that weekend, it all fell into place that I felt God was saying to me, but He doesn't only want to be one compartment, one aspect of my life, as in family, sport, school, maybe a girlfriend, maybe friends, chick, and one of those is my Christian faith. And so all these little things in the circle, one of them was Christianity. And that weekend, it sort of hit hard that Jesus says, I want to sit in the chair in the middle of your life. That picture, if you guys remember those 4 spiritual laws, books and everything. And that decision I made in January 1985. I went to my room that night, couldn't really get anybody to pray with me, so I went to my room and I knelt down and I asked the Lord to come into my life and to take control of my life. And that's really, for me, a significant step in terms of the journey with Jesus, is to get to that moment of accepting Jesus as my Savior and confessing that He's now in control, not just of the middle, but then of every aspect that defines or that is my life then, and in a way is still my life now. Is that there's this invitation, continuous surrendering of putting Jesus in the middle. That when you share with a group of men on a Friday morning, that Jesus sits in the middle, and not the coffee, not us, not anything here, but that when we get together on a Friday morning, that the center of what we meet for is Christ, and it changes perspective. It makes the speaker, it makes the fellowship, in a way, irrelevant to a certain case. And it makes the Lord the center of what one meets around. There's just 2 things I wanted to share around my life that sort of stand out, and and then I'll be finished. The one is around consistency. What's consistency in Afrikaans? Wat sê jy constant. So wanneer 'n ou, as jy kyk na sport, so my hele lewe is ek mal oor sport en ek het in sport gewerk baie. Daar's 'n sekere manier om sportmense, mans en vrouens te ryk as great. So wat is dit? Dis nie net 'n one-shot nie. Dis nie net as Jack Nicklaus een keer 'n meisie doen nie. Dis wanneer jy vir 'n lang tyd konstant briljant is. Messi of Ronaldo of Nicklaus of Federer meer as Djokovic en Nadal natuurlijk. Ernie, Tiger Woods, en al die great, en ons daar was daar ouens wat great was. Is dit nou? Ja, nog steeds, as jy kom vra. Is ek duik, maar is ek nie waar. So die greatness gaan rondom consistency en dankie. Het jy nou self gegoogel? En hoekom ek die consistency net noem, want die ene wat ek geleer het, omdat ek lank in sport gewerk het, en omdat ek self lank op myself gewerk het, 55 jaar al, het ek afgekom, daar's 'n klomp goed in die lewe wat nie konstant is nie. En sport is ook so, een dag wen jy, dan is ons almal die Here, die volgende dag verloor jy, dan is hulle almal die wille. Die een dag skor jy wen 3, en jy is die Here, die volgende dag drop jy die bal, en jy is die wille. Die een dag is jy die fikste ou in die wêreld, die volgende dag lê jy in die bed met jou been op, in gips, of wat ek al. So sport is baie onkonstant. Ek wil sommer 'n storieetjie vertel, 1989, julle kan allemaal Afrikaans verstaan. 1989, Karikapaan. Ek is gelukkig word gekies op fullback. Ek is baie versatile speler geweest. 10, 12 en 15 kon ek speel, want sodra 'n goeie speler kans inkom, kon ek skryf. That's how you become versatile. Die team wat beide is, ek skop, maar dan kan ek uitsetter. En as die aankom wat vinniger 'n groter sterk is, dan raak ek 'n baie goeie fullback. En so het ek 'n versatile speler geword. Die speler in 1989 was Kalla Skols beseer geweest, en die laaste 3 games van die jaar speel ek weer teen Natal en teen Wes-Transvaal. Was 'n semi-final gespeel wat Karel 4-3 gedruk het, en die finals was teen Noord-Transvaal op Nieuweland. En dis 'n great rugby game, en ons 45,000 mense wat mal gaan, en die Noord-Transvaal het 'n baie goeie span gehad daai tyd, met Naas en Burger Geldenhuys, en Uli Schmidt en Johan Jenus, en Adolf Mandan. En Louis Moorman was in daai tyd klaar geweest, maar dit was 'n solid span. Dit soort van was 'n klomp springbok op die veld in daai tyd. En daar was ons mintoetse in die laat 80s. So daai was 'n belangrike wedstryd geweest. En ons is so van agter meeste van die game, en heel op die einde val ons aan, en wie gaan met plesier gaan blind, en hy gooi so mooi torrie, so mooi computerpaas, en Fafeknoet sit net dit met sy hande, so gooi daar highlights op, kyk so pragtig, Fafeknoet kom so ingehaal, en hy vat net sy hande weg, en hy word geskiet, en Karel tel die bal op, weer laag, skoor in die hoek, 16-11. En daar is die Karel's with 4 points, and gives away our age a bit as well. 3, 4, 5. And we score in the corner 16-all. And so I'm jogging back. I'm like, hey, that's not too bad. You know, we can share the cup. And if Rian kicks the ball over, wasn't you, Rian? It's a friend of mine, Rian Faust. He'd been at varsity with me, and this was his 3rd game for Province. And he's got to kick the ball from 5 yards from the touchline. En as jy, in die ou dae was Nieuweland nog meer konkaaf, of is dit konveks? Konveks. So Nieuweland het aan die touchline, het hy so van bietjie afgekom, vir die dreinering. So as jy
van die dwars laat ons nie.
Ja. Jy moet al maar. En af, ek draf terug, En ek las terug en ons weet daar's nog tyd oor vir 'n kick-off, so dis nog nie die einde van die game. En hier langs my gryp die Williams visser by, die visser nou op die skouer, en hy sê, Hansie, kom ons moet bid almal. En hy kry nie van wat gesê, Michael is langsom uit. En Michael het in daai jaar dat hy tot bekering gekom. En hierdie twee ouens, Liv is amper 2 meter, Michael is 1,90 en ek is baie korter. En hulle sê, kom ons bid, ons moet nou hierdie bal weer die Vader bid. En ek sê, nee, dis fine, ons staan op die halflyn, ek wil 2 sulke ouens, jy gaan ons nie stryd. En hulle sê, okay, Here, hierdie bal moet hier, ons bid, hierdie bal, hy moet weer die Vader gaan, want ons gaan vir al die eer gee, ons gaan wen. En hulle is baie charismaties daai staan. Ons ouens wat in die 1980s al hande opgelig het en geklap het. Ek bedoel, hoe jy sien. En hulle bid, en Jesus, ons wil hê die bal moet weer gaan asseblief, en ons wil vir jou al die eer gee, en ek kyk so, en ek sien vir die Jans, maar agter as hier staan 'n paar bulle ook. Hulle is er nog nie die bulle nie, ek weet wat ons maak, daar sien ek Olie Schmidt en Johan Jenis, en die sê wat ook bid, en ek en ek sê toe maar net op die einde, maar Here, as dit U wil is, dat die bal oorgaan, is maar net my soort van go home vryheid, as dit U wil is, maar wees met Rian, my pel wat moet skop, en dit is eintlik en hy skop so mooi skop van die hoek af, en dit is 'n baie goeie skopper, dis kom hy teen gespeel het, en nie ek, en hy die bal begin so indrol, en op die einde maak hy so reguit, en hy mis die regte, en ek gaan so net by, en if you ever see the highlights of that, you see Rian looking up in shock at Davie Snyman in the thing, how can I miss that? He was such a good kicker. En die game maak klaar, ons draw 16-11, hulle het nog afgeskop, en ons skop die bal uit. En ons kom in die kleedkamer, en Michael, die ouens is, ek is redelijk happy. Ek sê vir my die einde van die Michael kom na my uit, en hy klap my so in die skouer, hy sê, what the hell? Hy sê, wat bid ek en Duff die bal recht in die pale. Hy is bezig om oor te gaan, wat ons bid, ons glo. En jy kom met, as jy saam met ons gebid het, dan al so seker daar in sport, is dit ook 'n drop. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes with die Here, en ek het geleer, en daai was 'n drop. En ek was really happy, half a cup is better than no cup. I mean, I know Mona het gesê, dit is like kissing your sister, but it was so just consistency, so ek wil net sê, so vir my het ek agtergekom dat sport is inconsistent. People are inconsistent, and we all know, we've all dealt with people, good people, bad people, people that we've trusted that have let us down and things like that. People generally are inconsistent. We are. Life is inconsistent. I mean, look at COVID, last year now, you would never have thought that. The markets, you would have thought, well, your investment is looking good. Hey, something crashes because of inconsistency. But the one, and then, if I get to God, I'm inconsistent. So I felt the longer I walked with Jesus, the inconsistent one, the weak one in this relationship is not Jesus, it's me. The weak one, over all these years, the one who's made the mistakes and who's moved away from the other one, is not Jesus. It's been us. So this is not a sport has shown me to be not dependable. People, generally, not to put all my faith in people. Got to forgive, move on, otherwise there's nobody left again. And I myself, I can't trust myself to handle life. And that lesson I've learned over many years, if I can share that with you today. But God, I can trust. In my walk with Jesus, I've realized that if I continue to surrender what I'm meant to do, if I continue to surrender my will to His will, my job to Him, my sport still, the fact that I like sport, or the fact that I play sport, to continue surrendering it to Him. He's the one that for me is consistent. He's the brilliant one. He's the Jack Nicklaus. if you think of I'm just thinking of Jack Nicklaus who won 18 races. I don't want to compare God with Jack Nicklaus, but God is the one who has been and is and will be consistent in this relationship. And for me, that stands out, and that's an encouragement that I want to share with you this morning as well, is that He will never, ever let you or me down. Sometimes we think that we find ourselves in a tough place, but he never does. He never has, He never does, and He never will. And so that makes something like sport very frivolous, because it comes and goes. And when there's corona, it doesn't even matter. There's nothing to sport. The second thing that I wanted to share with you is around just the concept of in God's hands. And some of you might have read about that or heard about that. And I just thought I'll bring an instrument here, which is just a piece of, this one it's a type of steel iron thing, né? That people put another little steel iron thing at the end, and then they call this thing a golf club. It's a feed ice, it's a burner. Okay, so you hold it, and you hit this thing, and sometimes when you make to hit this thing is made of rubber in the middle. Remember you used to it's like a little white thing. Yeah, can be called the tightness, the Callaway, a strict system. That little thing and this little thing is actually it's actually nothing. I mean, you can't eat this, you can't. There's only, but if you give this to a chap like Nicholas or to Tiger Woods or to McIlroy or to Ernie or something, this little stick becomes magic. It can do something. You give him this thing, and it's like it becomes a whole different ballgame, so to speak. And so it depends on whose hands is this piece of iron. Do you play golf?
No, once a year.
Let me look at your swing between.
I'll take.
Steady and it's. Is he bad? Nie, maar liefste Rory McIlroy. So I mean, you could use this thing to make a living with.
1 in 3 I hit the ball.
Nou, maar ek bly gebruik dit. Daai as hulle net gestap saam met hom.
So I've also learned that in terms of certain aspects like a golf club or a rugby ball or what you call it, it depends on whose hands that instrument is. I mean, a pretty useless instrument, and you're not going to really make a living out of this at this stage. I mean, if you don't practice Stefan, then you might become a top golfer and stuff. But at the moment, stick with your work. Look at your swing. But if you, as I said, if you get that to think of what Tiger Woods did for golf over the great years. Thank you. I'll conclude now.
Voordat hy my vra loop ek hier.
But sê van Tiger Woods se foute wat hy gemaak het met vrouens in die car crash en die feit dat hy as 'n mens se lewe uiteindelik gecrash, né? Maar dink aan sy golf wat Tiger gedoen het met so ding en met 'n golfbal uit vir die 82 toernooi PGA in 14 majors. Maar hy het mense geïnspireer met so 'n stok en met 'n bal. Reg oor die wêreld. He became an inspiration to many people. And I realized that over the years that when I try to do stuff myself, whether it's sport, whether it's work and things like that, yes, there's certain stuff I can do. I mean, I play quite a decent game of golf, and I play for the over 50s team for Rondebosch. So it's my go-to thing. It's a golfer. Maar ek sukkel ook maar. Jy weet, eendag goed, eendag sleg en goed. And I realized, but the only one who does something good when you give it to your hand is Jesus. And the reason why I brought the bread, it wasn't to dish it out to you guys this morning. I wasn't sure what I was going to get for breakfast, but the bread was just for me an example of what Jesus did with a couple of pieces of bread and fish. 5 bread, 2 fish. 5 fish, 2 bread.
2 fish, 5 fish.
5 bread. You can help it win. Maar dis 5 brode, 2 visse. So when Jesus took 5 pieces or 5 bread, loaves of bread and 2 fish, he fed 5,000, and it was actually 5,000 men plus all the women and children. So it's probably 20,000 people. He took that and made magic with that. And for me, that's also been in my relationship as I walk with him. Het ek ook geleer dat Jesus kan iets doen met 'n gewone talent of met 'n gewone effort, kan hy magic doen. En ek wil van 'n vinnige storie vertel. Julle ken vir Bees te Warrior. So ek het vir 'n klompie jare die Sharks Akademie gedaan. Ons het vir Bees hier rekruut as hierdie dik, overweight, kort, stadige agsteman van Zimbabwe. En toe kom hy na die akademie toe en hy net omdat hy sterk, groot, swart ou was, sê dis moet jy die ou kry. En hy het eintlik betaal om te kom. Hy het nie 'n kontrak gekry om te kom. En na so 'n paar jaar klop hy aan my deur en hy sê, "Oh, Mr. Hans, can I see? Ja, he's coming." So, kyk so na my familiefoto's. How the girls? Some cookies or something. How you doing? Oh, no, this is Scriba. I don't know where Dickie and Barney and Smith. Yeah, they want me to play a drop. I don't know. I don't want to play a drop. He said, well, ik praat so 'n paar minute met hom, want dit is belangrik in die lewe. So van 'n mentor geleer dat what do you want to do with your life? Maar hy wil rugby speel om dit te geniet. Hy sê, no, Mr. Arnold, I want to run with the ball. Dis 'n bakker wat ons understood. I want to run with the ball. Dit sê as die Bybel sê, ons se hare deur die wind deur die hare, en hy sê, I want to play rugby to enjoy it. I don't want to play club. Then I might as well go and wrestle. Ek sê dit vir wie sê wie thought about this, and dit is I prayed about it. And Jesus doesn't want me to play club. Ek sê maar dis perfect. So you've got to stay with your conviction, whatever you feel at the moment, stick with it. And don't play 8 man, you're going to be, well, I didn't tell you, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too slow, so you're going to enjoy it. Like that. He comes back 4 months later, knocks on my door, and said, oh, Mr. Hans, can I see you? I said, yeah, Mr. Come inside. I said, what happened? Oh, Mr. Hans, how's the girls? How's the family? God, yes, nice, lekker, humble. En I said, what's happened? Nou weet ek in tussentyd wat gebeur het. I said, oh, you know, Mr. Hans, I went there, John Carstens came back from injury, Bali said, Beastie, and I stood there against John Carstens. I pushed him back. It's just, what happened is, no, I said, so what are you going to do now? He said, I think I'm going to play drop. So I said, well, what happened with your life philosophy? Hierdie is belangrik, die vrou, die kind, die picket fence, die groen gas, die 2 honde, no, it's still important. I prayed about it. I said, so what happened? Last time you told me Jesus doesn't want you to play drop. I said, oh, you know, Mr. Hunt, I think Jesus changed his mind. So daar's 'n spesifieke geleentheid wat Wesley besluit het om sy rugby in die Here se hand te gee. So he decided, let me know, I can't play drop. Like, I kan nie, hierdie ding is stupid. Maar hy Wesley in te Warrior het op 'n spesifieke tyd gesê, Jesus, you take my bread, you take my fish, and then can you build a career for me out of this? En as jy kyk wat hy bereik het, what he's achieved over 12, 13, 14 years as a rugby player, and as a father, as a family man, and as a professional, he's been successful, and he's still humble. He's got a lot of money now, and he works for Walmart. But the issue that stood out for me is to place what he had and what he offered, to place that talent into God's hands. And God made something from took an overweight, fat, short, slow 8th man and made him an icon of rugby, not just in South Africa, but in the world. En vir my, dit is 'n example, en dit het ek ook nog geleer in my lewe, dat wanneer ek goed probeer, dat hoe meer ek self probeer, tot 'n sekere, hoe meer haak ek vas, en hoe meer ek surrender, so nou ook, hoe meer ek sit my lewe aan die Here surrender en commit, hoe meer kan hy oorvat en iets daarmee doen. Terwyl as ek dit self wil vashou en my eie intelligensie of my eie talent wil volg op ek. En dis miskien net die einde van my boodskap oor myself is wat nou op 55? Wat nou? Wat nou? How old are you now? 45. Wat nou? En ek, my boodskap wat ek met julle wil deel is dat wanneer ek kyk na waar ek vandag staan, die 14de Mei 2021, en ek kyk na die 55 en 'n halwe jaar agter my, dan wil ek vandag vir die Here sê, maar ek gee dit in jou hande. I place it in your hands. Because what has happened in these 55 and a half years, the good and the bad, the mistakes I've made, the sins I've committed, the good things I've done, the bad things the Lord has walked a journey with me all these years, not just from the day at Scars Camp. He's walked the journey from my birth with me. And the fact that I'm still here, He's protected, He's guided, He's poured His grace and His love over me all these years. And I believe He can use what I am and what I've done to honor Him. And it's, the challenge to me and to us is what do we do with that? What do we do with that? Do we try and hit that club style on our own? Or do we give the bread and the fish and the golf club and the golf ball and our talent? Do I give that back to God and say, okay, I'm still excited about the future. I'm still excited about the future because I think that what you've taken me through, waarmee jy hier my deurgevat het tot nou, kan ek nog steeds, heiliglik en in die toekoms, kan ek die Here daarmee eer, en kan ek iets terugsit in die lewe. Want dit leer ons ook, jy begin agterkom, dit gaan nie net om te hou, en dit gaan eintlik om die Here te loof, en om 'n verhouding met die, en dan, wat sit jy terug? What do you put back to the soccer project? What do you put back in your ministry? I'm very glad that you hear 15 years later that you yeah. And what are you putting back? What do you, with relationships with Mark, who hasn't had something to drink for a year now? There are opportunities for us to bring people to God and to build up, and not to complain about something. Nie mou oor ons rugby of oor sekere aspekte, maar om ons Vader geloof te aanleer. En dan is daar potensiaal. Dan vat hy hierdie brood en hy will feed many people. Deur my en deur jou. Deur gewone mense soos ons. En dit is miskien waarmee ek klaar maak. Is dat ek voel in my journey with Jesus, is dit waar ek op die oomblik is, en is ek is nogal meer excited oor die toekoms, want ek het nie baie vertroue in myself in die verlede nie. I don't have a lot of confidence in myself about the past, but I have more confidence in God about the future. And the more I say it, and the more I read it in here, the more it becomes true. En dis ook maar ons leer, soos ons ouer word. Ons leer ons maar om soveel as moontlik terug te gaan na die woord van God toe, en na die Here toe, en nie soveel te vra te sê. So dis miskien net wat ek met julle wil deel tot nou toe, en weet jy of daar enige vrae is van julle kant af, dis welkom om iets te gooi. Kan jy ons loop?
Dank jy. Ja, en vraag gehad.
As ek mag afskop ons, ek dink jy is die perfekte ou ons het al baie daar, ek nog die vraag baie gevra. En jy moes al in jou lewe soveel keer geconfronteer met dit gewees het, is dat hoe Jode dra 'n hoedjie, die moslims dra 'n keppie, die katholieke dra 'n kruis, hoe in die lewe wat ons is, veral in jou wêreld, wat dit is van bemarking, rugby, dit is ouens wat kuier en dit is rowwe manne in die plek, hoe geef ons net 'n praktiese voorbeeld van doen? Want ek smag daarna om te kan sê, maar ek is 'n Christen, as ek in 'n geselskap is en jy ou stuur vir jou op WhatsApp of 'n dingie, sê maar ek identifiseer nie met dit nie. Hoekom identifiseer jy met dit? Jy weet, hoe het jy 'n praktiese voorbeeld, hoe kan 'n ou, want ek dink die laaste wat ons drivers wil stuur, vir ou sê, luister maar, nie so praat nie, ek dink jy sal ouens weer wegstoot as jy ons nader trek, jy verstaan wat ek bedoel. Weet hoe doen dit in 'n praktiese lewe? Hoe sien jy ouens, jy's 'n Christen? Jy's 'n kind van die Here.
Ja, dis 'n goeie vraag. Ek dink die belangrike ding wat ek aan vasgehou het in my lewe, ek moet eers sê dat partykeer dink ons ook nie ons is goed genoeg om dit te wees nie. So ek dink dit ook. Partykeer dink ek moenie gaan staan en sê jy is die Christen, want dit wat jy gedink het. Ja, so ou ek gaan sê Rian, maar van destyds, jy. So partykeer ons het die conference om te staan vir wie ons goed vir wat ons is en wat ons glo nie. So dis 'n challenge partykeer. Ek sal net sê die belangrike ding, in English you say, you must be true to yourself. So, to be true to yourself, wat is dit in Afrikaans? Opreg te wees. So, maar jou punt, so die ene wat ek be true to myself, ek wil nie probeer drink om in te wees nie, of probeer vloek om in te wees nie, of probeer snaaks wees om in te wees met mense. Dit is makliker, it's easier said than done. We all have that temptation. Maar jy moet weet wie jy is, want as ek nie kan, dis die ene, so as ek nie is wie ek is nie, hoe kan ek word wie ek moet wees? If I'm not who I am, how can I become what I'm meant to be? I can only become what I'm meant to be for God if I am who I am. If I'm someone else, it's difficult to change. Dis die ene en die ander, die judgmental deel is vital. Ek het ook maar geleer om nie te judgmental te wees nie, want dan kan jy ons terugwys na my toe en sê, maar jy het 'n uur of 2 gedrink. Daai dag wat jy saam met ons was, of nou die dag, of dat, of dit. So, judgmental is different than love. So, om 'n ou te probeer judge, dit is iets anders as om 'n ou te probeer, help, of anders. So, ek sal sê die relationship, Rian, ek sal sê to build a relationship with people is much more important than necessarily to correct an issue. Die issue of 'n ou vloek nou, of 'n ou dop te veel gedrink het, of weet om 'n ou te probeer correct, omdat hy by iemand anders gaan slaap het, of iets, om die issue te wees, baie keer moeiliker dink ek, vir my. So ek preek nie nou hier nie, maar vir my is dit makliker om liewerste te probeer mooi te doen om aan daai verhouding met daai mense te werk. And to earn the right to speak into someone's life, and not to judge someone. So that's not just around the fire, around the bride. That you need to, it takes time to earn the right to speak about those important things in life, rather than just to judge.
Ek wil net sê, jou taal, of jou manier van praat, en jou houding, en wat jy doen, jou handeling, jy gee weg as 'n kind van die Here. Jy hoef partykeer niks te sê nie. En dan kan hulle sien, jy staan uit. Want as there's some vibrancy that you uitstraal, al sê jy niks, al doen jy niks. Want Petrus was om my 4, hy het hom warm gemaak, en sy spraak nodig. Jy is ook een van hom. En so, deur jou houding en hoe jy optree, dit gee jou weg as kind van die Here. Selfs jou spraak, want ek het eendag, toe ry ek in Bronkhorstspruit, en my kar gebreek. En toe gee die ambulance driver my 'n lift, om ons slaap maar by hulle. Die sê vir my, maar jy nie in die AGS nie. Sê ek, hoe weet jy? Nee, my bespraak gee jou weg.
Jy lig jou hand aan, seker.
Ja.
Jy klap jou hande. Full of joy. Jy self maar.
Ja, maak en dan die tweede ding is, jy maak 'n mean beast impression. Jy
Yes!
en is trek vir iemand
Hy het 'n coach
ek bedoel, 'n beast maak jou maak.
Beast op avond, maar van kleins af eintlik, sê hy. Hy het so baie groot geword en van kleins af, ek dink hy was nie groter as die ander as gewees. En hulle, ja, kom van skool af. Van Barbara, die weet my al daarvan.
Ek kom miskien iets deel dat ek dink wanneer ou jy tot 'n werklike bekering doen as 'n nuwe mens voordat jy nou uitgaan in die wêreld handel. En ek het ons 'n paar wêreldskars die geheim is, die vertrekpunt is jy moet boedel gee. You've got to surrender. Voor jy dit doen, hou jy nie saam. Jy moet jou lewe in God se hande sit. En hom toe te laat. En die moeilike is dat ons het almal, ek onthou die manne wat kom Janie verkeer en hier gaan die kampanje. Ons in die andere kop van Martimena, en ons nou soek op gesprek gehad. Die sê, dat is die eerste keer wat hy Martimena gesprek. Die sê hy, as een woord wat van my gestaan het, dis ego. Die sê, maar weet jy wat daarvoor gestaan het, is akroniem, for easy God out. En Suid-Afrikaner, veral Suid-Afrikaanse mans, hierdie ding oor ego, elke op homself, weet ek maar toe gaan. Jy moet beroep oorgee, van eers dan kan God nie doen. So
die Engelse surrender.
You must surrender all.
Ja.
Dat God vir jou lei. En dan wil ek dit sê, en hy gaan jou dalk lei op paaie wat nie vir jou sin maak nie, en daar gaan jy ook maar met die pad ry. Maar moenie probeer om dit self weg te maak nie. Hy weet wat hy doen, hy sê, die groot gepraat jy weet, van homself. Hy het jou geken, sê hy in sy woord, voordat ek vir jou in jou moederskoot ingeleef, ken jy, en ek dink ons misbeteken dit.
Ek wil vir een vers en ek vraag, dis nie meer die Johan Engel, maar Psalm 20 vers 7. Some trust in chariots, some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. Dis ook iets wat ek nog wel geleer het, minder vir myself. Ek het nooit so baie geld gemaak, dat ek op 'n stadium gesê geld as jy alles nie, maar in my lewe aan die een kant, chariots en horses het afgekom inconsistent, kan nie op hulle staat maak nie. En ook vriende van my wat baie chariots en baie horses bymekaar gemaak het. En hulle lewens op chariots en horses, op rykdom en status en alles gebou het. Dit werk ook nie uit. So in my eie lewe tot 'n mate, maar meer in die vriende wat ek oor die laaste 30 jaar gehad het. Die ouens wat hulle lewens op die chariots en die horses gebou het, is vir my sukkel meer in die lewe, en die ouens wat hulle lewens op die woord van die Here gebou het, is meer at peace met hulle self. Ek het nog nooit so baie geld gehad om dit te teste nie, maar en my chariot hoef ek nie so groot te wees.
Ek wil die opmerking maak. Vanoggend herinner my baie aan the pineapple story. Ek weet nie of jy nog geluister het nie. Ja, ek herinner my baie daarvan van die sendeling wat gesukkel het op die sendingveld. Toe hy net gaan na die States toe, toe geluister na 'n sermon en daai ou het gesê, maar ons te redden. And when he surrendered everything, then whatever was needed just fall into place. Fell into place. So dit het my nogal daaraan herinner. Met respect na dis is die feit dat ek het nou weer beskryf het in my Bible.
My spiritual, sorry, can I say something? My spiritual father was Andrew Murray. So he writes these beautiful small books that you can read, you know, and I started tackling them. The first one I got from my walk was a book that said absolute surrender. So the absolute, you know, to surrender is actually the key. So yeah, that's what I'll share.
It's a tough thing to do sometimes.
Jeez.
But it's ongoing.
Yeah, it's an ongoing journey.
I just want to get to something you said about the guys that have raised their life in the chariots and their wealth. Very shortly, in 2008, April, I was crying to God because my house was busy crumbling. My little kingdom that I built for myself. He said to me, the Holy Spirit said to me, you've collected all of this in Babylon.
Yeah.
And your faith is in what you've accumulated in Babylon. So I've removed that. I've left you with your house, furnished and calm, debt free. Now you put your faith in. Very difficult. Tot die been toe gesny, cut to the bone. It has had a major impact on my life since then.
So looking back now, it was good in a way, good at that.
Yes, yes, it was. Because I don't want to elaborate much, but I was in high school, 1976, when there was a TV program about old people that didn't make enough provision for their old age, and they showed this old lady cutting dog food.
TV 2 years begin.
Voor een jaar. Ek was in my beste school, academische prestatie was toen die eerste jaar van my leven staan gelegen. Maar dit was nou die eerste jaar. Toen staan hierdie ou tannie so van 'n blikkie monokos. She's cutting into 7 patties. And that starts to break again, that's what she was living with. En ek sê to myself, I never want to be there anymore. En ek het vanaf ek begin werk, tussen 40 en 60% van wat ek verdien belê vir my ou dag. Ek kom hier in 2008 van my ekses. Dis pas op net. Yes, true.
Did someone see
Yesterday is the past, tomorrow is reality, you're only here today. What are you doing today?
Did some of you see the Prince Philip's funeral? Nee, eintlik nie. Dis daar's 'n interessante ding waar Prins, toe hy nou dood is op 99, by sy begrafnis, lees die priester, net voordat die kofferkus afgaan. En hy word moes gedraap in daai kerk.
Ja.
Die lees die ou alles wat hy was. The Earl of this, the Duke of that. Dit is 'n titels agter die muur op die altaar. Is al sy goed agtergeloop, soos sy swaard, die ou dingetjie, medalje. Al die goed waarvoor daai gestap wat hy sy titels was. Bly toe agter. And the coffin slowly goes down. And the commentator says to God, and now he leaves us as a normal soul. What was he for 99 years? He wasn't all those things. I couldn't understand. Beteken eintlik niks. Hy gaan die naam as a normal soul. Hy look this out. My skoonpa kom kyk, hy love die royals. All those things that you get, all those titles. Hy was al die tyd in dit, in ons saal. Hy was nie.
Sy afwas van hulle, maar gaan ergens
Ja, en ek vir die ou gevra op die begrafenis, het iemand gevra, wat het hy agtergelaat? Hy sê nou alles.
Net voor dit
Ja.
ek weet nie of jy die currybeker ken nie, maar die beker net. Dit is baie beter die currybeker. TGIF beker, jy kan hier op vandag. Okay, dan dalk 'n ander gebedsbesoek